Tonight on Connecticut's news station, another call to the home of a city manager is raising questions in one city, and some people are now saying he needs to step down.
Police went to his home and found the burn pit. Nothing was done.
Plus, a New Britain woman speaks out tonight why she says the suspect in a fatal hit and run shouldn't have even been on the streets.
Plus, calls for a ceasefire in Gaza tonight. Students at a local university are putting pressure on local leaders to take action.
Now at 6, this is Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for the news at 6. I'm Brent Harden.
And I'm Sarah Sanchez. The actions of Meridan city manager Timothy Kuhn are now in question for the second time this year. This time, police were called to his apartment for a wellness check.
Fox 61 New Haven County Bureau reporter Julia LeBlanc has been digging into Wednesday's police report, which is now getting a lot of attention.
The Meridan City Council has called for a special meeting Monday night to talk about Kuhn's future here at City Hall. This after police got called to an apartment early Wednesday morning for a welfare check on Kuhn.
The first thing I noticed about it was, one, they left out a lot of information on, again, the state of condition that he was in other than he was sleeping. Was he intoxicated? Why wasn't that in the report?
Joe Villano got his hands on this Meridan police report Thursday afternoon. Hours later, he went over it in detail.
Per the police report right here.
On his weekly podcast.
People are calling for the city manager to be fired, as he should have been before, but he definitely should be now.
The report says police got called to a multifamily home on Pleasant Street Wednesday around 1:40 a.m. The caller told police Timothy Kuhn was laying on the floor of the common hallway, kicking. Police found Kuhn asleep on the ground. After waking him up, Kuhn told police he couldn't find his keys, but they may be in the center console of his car. Officers were there for nearly an hour, finding his keys and phone on top of his car.
My parents always told me, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
This incident comes after Kuhn was charged with driving under the influence in April. That's when police say Kuhn drove the wrong way on Route 3 in Wethersfield and eventually crashed his car on Route 2. City council members agreed to keep Kuhn on staff if he took personal leave and completed an employee assistance program. They ruled he wouldn't drive a city car for 3 years.
Going forward, it's like, what standards are you setting?
Some neighbors think a person in this role should be held to a higher standard. It'll be the topic of discussion in a special city council meeting Monday night.
We need more leadership instead of destruction, and I feel like if you're destruction to your own being, you have a lot to work on.
It's either he goes Monday or city council goes on Tuesday.
Now, we did reach out to Kuhn at his home, but we didn't get an answer. In the meantime, council members are sending a joint statement saying, in part, quote, city leadership and the city council are aware of a police incident involving the city manager and are currently gathering pertinent information for its special meeting. Now, that meeting, once again, is Monday night at 5:30 p.m. We are in Meridan. Julia LeBlanc, Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
Julia, thank you. New at 6 tonight, New Haven police arrested a man in connection with 2 arsons. Terrence Bogan was arrested Tuesday. He's accused of setting fires at the 3 Judges Motor Lodge and the New Haven Inn on September 22nd. Bogan is being held on $700,000 bond, and police are crediting the community's help in identifying Bogan as a suspect. Well, Bridgeport mayoral candidate John Gomes is claiming absentee ballot fraud is continuing despite winning the recent court case that ordered a new primary. So the question becomes, is anyone protecting the integrity of the vote? Fox 61's Matt Caron looked into it.
Well, you might remember it was back in September, right here at the state capitol, when lawmakers approved $150,000 salary to hire an election monitor in Bridgeport. But the state says they couldn't find somebody to fill that position. So instead, they appointed a temporary person.
The best way possible right now that we have to execute a fair election is to show up and vote in person.
As of Friday, 2,521 absentee ballots have been issued to voters in Bridgeport. That's about half the number sent to just Democrats during the primary, but it's still the most of any municipality. The Gomes team says it indicates organized ballot harvesting is still occurring.
There are districts where the absentee ballot harvesting has happened. It continues to happen.
Despite calls from Republicans to address election integrity during a special session, nothing has changed.
Why? Because the current system works for them. And they don't want to change everything, even though it's shocking to the rest of us.
So the question becomes, is anybody looking out for the voters?
We had to reach into someone we did know who is a lawyer, who is a registrar, who worked for our office for many years, who is serving in the interim role.
Enter Peggy Reeves, a former Democratic state representative. She will be the temporary election watchdog, tasked with overseeing absentee balloting and ballot pickup. But to the disappointment of Republicans, the state still can't find someone to fill the job permanently.
There aren't that many people who know election law, election process, don't have a job already, don't want to be paid benefits, and want to be hounded by the news media every day.
This just seems to be, excuse after excuse. The public service is about serving the public. That requires at times dealing with the public, dealing with the media, dealing with the press, being involved in topical issues.
With an election just 3 days away, so much remains unclear. Chiefly, will Tuesday's election even count? And how far does the absentee ballot fraud extend?
This is a problem here and here alone.
It's not isolated to Bridgeport.
Now, yesterday, Bill Bloss, the attorney for John Gomes, said that if Gomes does win the general election on Tuesday, there won't be a need to hold a new primary. He'll become the mayor. Case closed, issue settled. But the Secretary of the State's office told me today that still is a gray area. It remains unclear. A lot of things still need to be answered, changing by the hour. Reporting outside the state capitol in Hartford, Matt Caron, Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
Turning to the weather now, it was already a really sunny start to the weekend.
Chief Meteorologist Rachel Frank joining us now with more. Rach, got a nice one on tap for once, huh?
It is very exciting to have both Saturday and Sunday both be dry. What? 52 degrees right now in Hartford, getting dark out there, but it'll be even darker come this time next week. Taking a look at low temperatures this morning. Not as cold as it was yesterday morning, but still a frosty start to the day with overnight lows that were in the upper 20s to right around 30 degrees. And again, it's not going to be as cold tonight. So temperatures are slowly moving up as we head into this upcoming weekend. No complaints here. Right now, we're looking at temperatures in the upper 40s to around 50 degrees for most of the state. Mid 50s, though, right now for the New Haven area. And while it will be dry both Saturday and Sunday, we are still anticipating more clouds as we head into the day tomorrow. Overnight lows dropping back into the upper 30s to right around 40 degrees. Bit cooler for Wyndham as we head towards daybreak, mid 30s possible there. So not as cool to begin the day. Some sunshine possible, but I think the clouds really take over midday into the afternoon. It might turn either mostly cloudy, if not overcast for a little while. But even so, temperatures will still climb up near and maybe even slightly above average for this time of year. And we're looking at a pleasant evening tomorrow night. Nice and comfy for your Sunday, too. We'll take a look at that full weekend forecast and when rain returns coming up.
Morning shootings under investigation in Hartford. Police say it happened just before 7 a.m. on Hungerford Street. The victim, a man in his 40s, went to the hospital on his own. The incident is still under investigation.
Meridan police have made an arrest in connection to a hit and run. Paige Casina turned herself in to police today. She's accused of hitting a pedestrian on B Street in April. That pedestrian was taken to the hospital and was in critical condition. She is still recovering, but police say she has serious disabling injuries. Casina was released on $5,000 bond and is due back in court later this month.
The Office of Inspector General is investigating the death of a man who died while in police custody. Wolcott police responded to a mental health call at a home on Tyrell Drive on Tuesday. When police arrived, they tried to help Robert Brown, who had 2 large wounds that appeared to be self-inflicted. Police tased Brown after he, as police say, was swinging a saw blade. Brown was taken to the hospital where he later died.
Well, right now, family, friends, and medical professionals are coming together to pay respects to a visiting nurse who was found dead last weekend. Calling hours for Joyce Grayson started at 4 and continue until 8 at Tillinghast Funeral Home in Danielson. Grayson's funeral will take place tomorrow in Brooklyn. Police found Grayson's body last Saturday inside a home in Willimantic. They have a man in custody, but he has not yet been charged in her death.
Tonight, a story you'll only see here on Fox 61. Yale students gathered on campus, showing support for Palestine and calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza.
Fox 61 political reporter Emma Wolforst spoke with students and the lawmakers they're calling out. She joins us live now in New Haven. So, Emma, what was the message from protesters today?
Well, Brent, Sarah, these students tell me they're feeling discriminated against. And this afternoon, they marched from here across campus to deliver a signed letter to their administration with a specific list of demands.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Chants ringing out in the Elm City Friday afternoon. As Yale students marched across campus to deliver a letter to their administration.
We are demanding fair treatment, we're demanding fair speech, and we're demanding accountability in divestment and in treatment of students and staff.
Their letter calling on the university to take a, quote, moral stand against Israel's bombardment of Gaza, divest from arms manufacturers, and denounce anti-Palestinian and Islamophobic hate speech on campus.
We feel that it is an institution with sufficient clout that it could have an impact.
Students Friday also pushing for Connecticut's elected leaders, including Senators Chris Murphy and Richard Blumenthal and Representative Rosa DeLauro, to call for an immediate ceasefire.
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
Senator Blumenthal responding Friday, saying he wants a humanitarian pause for more aid, the release of hostages, and an effort to minimize civilian deaths.
These points we made when we visited Israel on a bipartisan trip, and we've continued to press the Israeli government.
But students here say a humanitarian pause is not enough.
And the humanitarian pause means nothing for the people in Gaza, means nothing for the wider peace in the region.
We reject these calls for a humanitarian pause, and we demand a ceasefire.
Blumenthal also tells me that the Palestinian government seemed receptive to the idea of a humanitarian pause when he spoke with them on his trip, but just a few hours ago, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu seeming to rebuff these calls, saying any sort of ceasefire would need to be tied to the release of hostages. Reporting live in New Haven, Emma Wolforst, Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
Thank you, Emma. President Biden and the First Lady visit Lewiston, Maine today. They laid flowers at one of the sites of last week's shooting. The shooter opened fire inside a bowling alley and local bar on October 25th, killing 18 people and injuring more than a dozen others.
Jill and I have done too many of these. Jill and I are here, though, on behalf of the American people, to grieve with you and to make sure you know that you're not alone.
The shooter's body was found 2 days later in the woods near the town of Lisbon. Authorities say he died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound.